One of the biggest causes of algae is overfeeding of fish.
We're the two Gay Reefers.
Hey Reefers, today we're here. Well, I'm here. Gordon's at work. He's actually started a new job, so working for himself, so really exciting there. But I'm here. We're going to be talking about algae and how to get rid of it, because we all know it's not fun to get rid of. The thing is, I'm not a big fan of quick fixes, all in one, just dose the tank just to get rid of it. So I'm going to show you a few hints to get rid of it and get rid of it for the long term. And that means, yes, it will take a while, but in the end, you'll get rid of it. So first things first, you need to have proper biological filtration. So you need to have biological media in the sump. A lot of rock work these days tends to be on the minimal side because we've gotten away from that whole wall of rock in the tank. And therefore, a lot of people don't have much biological filtration in the actual tank. Reduced rock work means there's not as many places for all the helpful bacteria to actually reside to get rid of nitrates. A lot of people also have no sand, bare bottom tank. Again, no space for bacteria to help. To compensate for that, you need to have enough biological media. Now, there's a lot of biological media on the market now. There's a lot of blocks and biospheres and things like that. A lot of the ones these days claim to have so much surface area it's not funny. I find they're good. We use them ourselves, but I find from experience that it takes a while for the actual bacteria to build up. So I would prefer to have as much of it as you can fit in your sump. So instead of growing algae in the tank, you grow it in the sump. It seems quite obvious, but a lot of people don't have it. We choose an algae reactor purely because it takes up less space and gives you just as much, if not more, benefit from having a refugium. So algae reactors we prefer, and so far our Chato is going nuts. The Refugium, algae reactor, and enough biological media are stables that you need to have to cope with nitrates in your tank. Also a good skimmer. So you need to have your tank set up to actually deal with nitrates in the first place. If you don't, you're never going to get rid of it. So we've dealt with how to set your tank up to deal with nitrates in the first place. What happens when you do have nitrates and phosphates build up in your tank? One way, and the best way to do it, is to do regular water changes. Now, they don't have to be big water changes. If you do more consistent water changes, that seems to work better. By consistent water changes, I mean like weekly water changes is good. So we find we do a 20% water change every week. We've been doing so for the last 4 weeks, which just get rid of that nitrate and phosphate out of your tank once and for all. And that's really helped our algae issue. One of the biggest causes of algae, I believe, is overfeeding of fish. We've got 3 tangs in this tank. They are very, very, very fat because they're very well fed. And the issue there is that they get very lazy. They're in this tank to do a job. They're not doing that job because they get fed so much. So to get rid of algae, get your fish doing their job, stop feeding them. We've gone down to a cube of frozen food of a morning and a cube at night. Sometimes a little bit more because the fish look at me and they go, "We're hungry, feed us more." But you've got to get past that temptation, if you want to get rid of algae, you need to stop feeding your fish so much. So, cut back. Now the issue is, when you come into this hobby, or any fish hobby to be honest, you get told, yes, don't overfeed, but they say, don't feed more than what your fish can eat in 5 minutes. I can put in 4 blocks of frozen food into this tank, the fish will demolish it in 2. So that is not a good guide. A good guide is feed once or twice a day, cut back your food. Make sure it's a measurable amount as well. That's why I like frozen food, because you actually know and can feed a regular amount regularly instead of a pinch of dried food and you really don't know the amount of the food going into the tank. Our phosphate, although high, it's not too high. So the algae we do have in the tank does not have a firm grip on the rocks, so it's easily removed. So we can remove it with a turkey baster. It just blows off the rocks. It's easy to hand pick off, siphon off. So no pox works well. Doesn't necessarily get everything down really fast. You have to be patient with it, but you can get there in the end. The other thing we also use and have been using at the moment is hydrogen peroxide. We did have cyanobacteria, so we've been dosing about 20 mil of that a day for our tank. So that's 180 gallons, 800 litres, 20 mil a day. That's been working really well to get rid of cyano. It also, I think, weakens the algae we have in the tank as well. So again, makes it a lot easier for manual removal. So we've got all our controls in place. How do we actually get rid of it when it becomes a problem? So the best thing is cleanup crew or snails. Now we have issues with this because we have wrasses. Our wrasses like to pick and turn over snails and then eat them. So we find it very hard, but in everyone else's tank, make sure you have a good cleanup crew. Make sure you have enough for the job that's there. If they're getting lazy and not doing their job anymore, get some new cleanup crew. Cleanup crew will just go, oh, I can just eat fish food all day. So if they're getting lazy, go to your fish shop, get some more cleanup crew, replenish it, and more importantly, put it where the algae is. So when you put them in the tank, put them on top of patches of algae. Move them back to that patch if they're not finished with it. That way, you know they're actually doing their job. So if you have issues like us with cleanup crew and wrasses and things like that, that's when you become the cleanup crew. Which leads us to what happens when you do have algae. You're getting rid of it with the snails and cleanup crew. The last resort, well actually no, not the last resort. I reckon the best resort is always to hand remove it from your tank. It's laborious. It takes a while. Yes, it will come back. That just means you need to do it again. Just keep removing it from your tank. Remember, algae when it's in your tank is actually locking up phosphate and nitrate. So you take that, physically remove it from your tank, you're getting rid of it for good. You're taking it out of your system. It's not going to come back because you're taking it out. But seriously, hand removing is safer than any chemicals you can put in your tank. Like, it's not a quick fix, but you keep on top of it. Each time you do it, you're going to have less. So our tank was quite a mess after our rescape. The algae took hold. Also, we weren't doing water changes. So since we've been doing water changes, the algae's been getting weaker and weaker and weaker. Every time we do a water change now, we actually do some sort of manual removal. Now, first of all, it was a toothbrush because there was so much of it. the scrubbing those rocks with a toothbrush, siphoning it out at a water change. Step 2 was turkey baster. As I said, the algae is quite loose on our rocks, so we were able to just like blow it off the rocks, which was really good. Made a big difference, got it out of the tank. Now, what I'm going to show you now is doing a water change again. We're actually going to siphon it out of the tank. The technique is you have the tube in your hand that you're siphoning with. You pinch off the algae while you're holding the tube, pinch it off the rocks, pull it off the rocks, let it go and get sucked up straight into the tube. That way, you know it's out of the water column and you can safely just throw it away with the wastewater that you do when you do your water change. Another option is, instead of doing it when you gotta do a water change, you can also just put a filter sock on the other end. So all the water goes straight into the filter sock, filters out the algae chunks, and then you can tip the water back in. So that's another option as well. Okay, reefers, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. A little bit of an educational one. Shock horror. If you've liked today's video, like, comment and subscribe. Like, comment and subscribe. Like, comment and subscribe. And as always, be excellent to each other and keep it salty, everyone. Bye for now. Be excellent to each other and keep it salty.